Investing is never without challenges. There are always things to be worried about, but putting new money to work or simply staying invested during an election year can be particularly difficult. Similar to what we see during market sell-offs, fears about all the bad things that could happen dominate our thinking and generate strong emotions. And while I think we all inherently recognize that's not a good thing when it comes to decision making, it's unrealistic to think we'll be able to completely ignore those emotions. We can, however, attempt to control them. One way that's been shown to be effective in combating our own emotions is to focus in on the data, or in this case, the historical precedent. As important as elections are, and we're not attempting to downplay that, what comes through in the data is that investors tend to overestimate the impact elections and government have on financial markets. So as the election cycle kicks into full gear, we thought this would be a good time to look at some of that data. Before we dissect the data too much though, let's just look very big picture at how markets have performed over the long haul across many different eras and administrations. While there is often a perception or belief that the market behaves better under one party's leadership, this graph does a great job of visually showing that the US equity market has enjoyed a steady march higher regardless of which party held the presidency. Of course, the presidency isn't the only office of power within the government. So we also looked at performance that broke each presidential period up by whether the president's party also controlled both houses of Congress or if power was divided in some manner. Looking at the returns for the S&P 500 index over the last 75 years, we can see that regardless of how we slice the data, the results don't change much. There is some variance, but when I look at this, I see something in it for practically everyone. For example, annualized returns may be better with a Democrat as president, but if you are a Republican, you can point to the fact that the highest return numbers were when the party controlled the presidency and both chambers of Congress. The big takeaway here though, and what I hope is the lasting impression, is that all of these return figures are north of 10% and at levels we'd all be very happy to see continue. So that's the long-term picture. What about investing specifically in an election year? This is where there are some surprises. When we compared returns and volatility during election years with those in the year following an election, we didn't find that things were materially that different. Let's look first at returns. We used that same 75-year time frame from the prior analysis and looked at the 3 quarters prior to the election, the quarter of the election itself, and then the full year results. We did this specifically because we so often have investors who want to wait until after the election to invest or make decisions. What this shows though, is that the first 9 months of a presidential election year have actually been a better than average time to invest. The opposite is true during the quarter that includes the election and the roughly 2 months after it, which again runs counter to the idea that it's better to wait until after the election to invest. For the full year period, yes, the returns during an election year are a bit lower, but as we just showed, that is likely due to the period after the election, and as we talked about with the prior graph, I think we'd be quite happy with either of the full year return figures. What about volatility? Surely the election causes more volatility for the stock market. Yes and no. Volatility is slightly lower in the first 3 quarters of an election year, then higher during the quarter of the election. For the full year though, it's no different. Again, we don't want to downplay the importance of elections here, or anywhere around the globe. Every election cycle is unique, and the outcome critically important to how we function and move forward as a society and country. With that said, when it comes to financial markets, we believe history shows that investors consistently overestimate the importance of elections and government policy. So as the next few months unfold and the rhetoric escalates, we hope some of this data will help investors see through that noise and remain invested and committed to their long-term financial plan. As always, thank you for watching. If you have questions or would like to talk about your personal wealth management needs, please contact us at the number or email shown at the close of this video.